When you come across this video, it is not by chance, it is not by mistake or coincidence, it is because today heaven wants to speak to you in a direct and powerful way. Listen carefully. God confirms your marriage today, and with that confirmation a radical change is also activated that will completely transform your life. Perhaps for a long time you have been waiting for signs, answers, and certainties about what God plans for your emotional and spiritual future. And now He tells you clearly, doubt no longer, because what I have prepared for you is already in motion. Marriage is not just a union between two people, it is a sacred covenant where my presence will be the center, says the Lord. And when God confirms, no one can deny, no one can oppose, no one can break what He has already established on high. Today you will feel in your spirit that certainty that you longed for, because these are not empty words, but divine support that comes to seal your destiny. You have gone through seasons where it seemed that love had become unattainable, where doors were closed one after another, and where perhaps your heart was hurt more than once. But today I want you to understand something profound. Those tears, those nights of loneliness, those moments when you thought that someone who would value you would never come. They were part of the process that God allowed to mold your character, your faith, and your trust in Him. Because now by confirming your marriage, He is also confirming that everything you have experienced had an eternal purpose. What is coming for you is not just any relationship, it is not a passing love or an illusion that fades with time. It is a divine covenant that will reflect God's faithfulness on earth. It will be a love that will heal wounds, that will bring peace and security, that will be like a refuge in the midst of storm. That person with whom God unites your life will be someone who will walk with you in faith, who will share dreams, who will be support and strength in every battle. Perhaps you have asked yourself, does God really think of me in this area of my life? Is it not too late? Have I already lost opportunities? Today the Lord tells you, I make all things new. It does not matter what was left behind, what did not work, what was broken. What comes is new, clean, pure, and guided by my hands. Your marriage will not be the result of human coincidences, but the manifestation of a divine design that was already written before you were born. It is important that you listen to this. The radical change that God will bring is not only about your marital status. That change will impact all areas of your life. When your marriage is confirmed, paths of emotional restoration, prosperity, stability, and purpose will also open up. What was disordered will begin to align. What seemed impossible will begin to happen. Because when God unites, He doesn't just unite two hearts, He also opens a new time where His glory is manifested in the lives of those who believe in Him. And I want you to allow your heart to be filled with hope as you listen to these words. Perhaps it's been a long time since you dared to believe again. Maybe disappointment made you think that true love was no longer for you. But God is giving you back the ability to dream, to hope, to trust. He wants you to prepare yourself because confirmation is not something far away, it is something that is happening right now. Listen, the Holy Spirit is breathing a new season into your life. You are entering a time where faith will be rewarded, where waiting will make sense, where the prayers you raised in secret will be answered in public. This marriage that God confirms will be a living testimony of His faithfulness. It will be a sign to many that it is worth waiting on the Lord because He is never late, He always arrives at the perfect time. I want you to write a statement of faith in the comments right now, because there is power in what you confess with your mouth. Write, I believe in God's confirmation of my marriage. Do not do it just as a symbolic act, but as a seed that you are sowing in the spiritual world. Each word you speak will be a key that will open even more quickly the doors that God has already prepared for you. Feel how your heart begins to fill with a peace that is not human, but divine. That peace is evidence that what you hear are not simple phrases, but a direct confirmation for your life. God tells you today, I am in control and what I am preparing for you will be much greater than you imagined. Your marriage will not be a burden, it will be a gift, a reflection of my love for you. You have come this far because heaven wanted to intercept your path. Do not ignore this sign, because today you are receiving answers that many would like to hear. What God is confirming is not limited to an emotional moment, it is a word established in the eternal. And that word will not return empty, but will fulfill exactly what it was sent to do, radically transform your life. When God confirms a marriage, it's not just about uniting two people who love each other. It's about uniting purposes, intertwining destinies that were already written deep in the heart for eternity. And I want you to understand something that is key. God's confirmation does not mean the absence of trials, but the certainty that every battle you face, you will face accompanied, supported, and with assured victory. How many times have you thought that you were alone in the middle of the road, that no one understood your internal struggle, that no one saw the tears you shed in silence? But in those moments when there seemed to be no hope, God was already working in secret, preparing that person who will be your ideal helper, the answer to your prayers, the perfect complement to your life. Because God does not improvise, God does not play with your emotions. He writes stories that glorify His name and show the world that His love is real. What is confirmed for you today is more than a marriage. It is an eternal covenant that will have an impact on your family, on your generations, on the way you will see life from now on. That union will bring restoration not only to your heart, but also to wounds that come from long ago, family wounds, memories that seemed impossible to heal. God is saying, what I unite, I heal. What I confirm, I establish. What I seal, no one can destroy. Listen to this. Many will look at what is happening in your life and will not understand it. There will be those who ask, how is it possible for something so beautiful and so firm to suddenly appear? And that is where the Holy Spirit will put the living testimony on your lips. It was God who did it. It was He who confirmed my marriage. It was He who opened the doors that I could never open with my own strength. That testimony will be light for others who are also waiting. It will be a beacon for those who believe that God has already forgotten them. I want you to receive it deep in your spirit. Your marriage will be a public answer to a private prayer. Everything you spoke to God in intimacy, everything you poured out alone, today He transforms it into visible fulfillment, and that will bring joy, peace, stability, but above all it will give glory to the Lord, because no one will be able to say that it was the work of chance. It is normal that right now you feel a certain mixture of excitement and fear, because the unknown sometimes it scares you. You wonder, how will I know this is the right person? How will I recognize that this confirmation comes from God and not my emotions? The answer is clear. True confirmation brings peace. Not anxiety, not confusion, not constant doubt. It brings rest, it brings security, it brings certainty that even when there are trials, God is at the center and nothing can separate what He has already established. When that person comes, you will not see human perfection, but you will see divine purpose. You will not see someone who never fails, but someone who will have the grace of God to rise up and walk with you even in weakness. And that is what a marriage confirmed by heaven does. It is not based on human strength, it is based on the presence of God. And at this point I want you to do something prophetic, something that will activate your faith even more. I want you to write in the comments the name of someone you have prayed for. It can be a specific person or simply write, "I hope in God's perfect plan for my marriage." Do it as an act of faith, because every word you speak here will echo in the spiritual world. Do not underestimate what you confess. Because there is power in confession, and by writing it down you are aligning your heart with what God is already confirming in heaven. As you hear these words, your mind will likely begin to recall difficult times, broken relationships, broken promises, but do not let those memories steal what God is planting inside you today. Because the confirmation you receive does not depend on your past, it depends on the divine plan that never changes. The Lord says, "Behold, I make all things new," and you will feel that new beginning in every aspect of your life. Because it does not only change your emotional state, it will also change your vision, your way of seeing the future, your way of trusting in the process. What once seemed like an endless wait, now becomes a time of preparation for something much greater. God doesn't just give you a marriage, He gives you a renewed purpose, a destiny where you will walk hand in hand with someone who shares your faith, your values, and your commitment to the Lord. Look, many people run after love for fear of being alone, but what God does with you is different. He doesn't respond to your fear, He responds to your faith. It's not about filling a void, it's about multiplying the blessing. Two lives that are under God's guidance not only complement each other, they enhance each other, and that power will be evident. Projects that were previously stagnant will begin to flourish. Dreams that seemed impossible will begin to be fulfilled, because there is a special power when two walk in harmony under divine support. Today, heaven reminds you. What is coming is much more than you ask for, because you ask for company, but He will give you purpose. You ask for someone to love you, but He will give you someone to walk with you in faith. You ask for peace in your heart, but He will give you a life of testimony and glory for His name. That's how God is. He always gives more than we can imagine. When the Lord speaks of confirmation, He does not do so that you live in uncertainty, but so that you walk with confidence. And that confidence is what begins to transform everything around you. Perhaps up until now you thought that your story was marked by endless waiting, disappointments, or fear of failure. But today God changes the narrative, changes the script, changes the direction of your life. It is no longer about what you tried with your own strength, it is about what He is establishing with His power. Your marriage confirmed by God will be evidence that you were never alone, that in every tear and in every silent prayer, heaven was already writing the answer. It will be visible evidence that everything you experienced had a greater purpose. And that purpose is to show that God's faithfulness always exceeds our expectations. The radical change that is coming upon your life is not just emotional or sentimental, it is spiritual and eternal. Get ready, because there will be a transformation in the way you see life, in the way you relate to others, in the way you face each day. You will no longer walk from lack or need. You will walk from the abundance of love that God pours out on you and on the person He unites to your destiny. and that abundance will be reflected in every area. Peace in the midst of storms, clear direction in your decisions, and, above all, a renewed faith that will become your greatest treasure. You may wonder what this process will be like, how this encounter will happen, how you will recognize what comes from God and what does not. And the answer lies in your relationship with Him. Because when you seek the Lord first, everything else falls into place. The love confirmed by God does not come in the midst of confusion, it comes in the midst of clarity. It does not come to distract you from your purpose, it comes to propel you even further in what you are already walking with Him. Imagine for a moment the day when you look back and remember this moment, the day when, hand in hand with that person, you smile when you see that what seemed impossible became your reality. You will remember that God spoke and fulfilled it. And you will understand that every delay, every wait, and every tear were seeds that today germinated into an abundant harvest. That day you will realize that it was all worth it because God's faithfulness never fails. And it's not just about your personal story. Your confirmed marriage will be a beacon of light in the midst of a world where many no longer believe in true love. It will be an inspiration to those who have lost their faith. A reminder that God still writes beautiful stories, that He still unites hearts with an eternal purpose. You and your partner will be living witnesses of what it means to wait on God and trust in His timing. I want you to receive this as a sure promise. What is coming for you is stability, it is growth, it is fullness. God is not taking you to uncertain terrain, He is planting you on solid ground, and in that soil your life will bear fruit. Fruit that will last and that will bless others. Because when God blesses, He does not do so in a limited way, He does so abundantly so that what you receive you will also share. Do not ignore the signs that He is already showing you. That peace you feel in your heart as you listen to these words is evidence that the Holy Spirit is speaking to you. That warmth within you, that renewed hope, that rekindled longing, these are signs that radical change has already begun. And even though you may not yet see it all with your eyes, it is already happening spiritually. Always remember this. It is not your perfection that attracts the promise. It is the grace of God that covers you. It is not your strength that ensures fulfillment. It is the power of God that never fails. He is the author of your story, and what He writes no one can erase. Your marriage is part of that glorious chapter that is already underway. And now, before I close, I want you to lift up your heart and declare in faith the following: Lord, I receive your confirmation, I receive your perfect plan, I receive the radical change that you will transform in my life. Say it out loud wherever you are, because your words have power, and by declaring it, you are aligning your life with the divine plan that is already written about you. Today you will not leave this video the same way you entered. Today it brings you certainty, hope, and peace. Today your heart is strengthened because you know that God confirms your marriage, and that with that confirmation comes a future full of blessing. Believe, wait, and trust, because the one who promised is faithful, and what He began in your life will bring it to fulfillment. Your radical change is already here, and your new story begins now. God has spoken, and what He decides cannot be stopped by any force on earth or in heaven. Today, dear chosen one, I want you to open your heart, because what you are about to hear is not a coincidence. You did not arrive here by coincidence. The sacred connection that was written for you since before your birth begins to be restored at this very moment. This is not a simple promise of love or any kind of encounter. We are talking about divine union, the bond that the Creator prepared for your soul. And the most shocking thing is that even though you have felt breakups, silences, or long waits, God has decided that your time of emptiness is over and that your soulmate is coming closer to you. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes you will discover the signs. You will understand why everything you have experienced had a purpose, and you will learn to recognize the arrival of that sacred love that will transform your life forever. Perhaps up until now your heart has often wondered, why so much silence? Why so many comings and goings? Why did love seem to escape my hands just when I was about to reach it? And those questions weighed like chains on your spirit. But listen carefully, you were not wrong in your desire, you were not wrong in your dream. What was happening was a time of preparation. Just as gold must be refined in the fire before it shines in its maximum splendor, your life has been put into a process that today reaches a point of revelation. The Creator did not forget your request, He did not discard your tears. On the contrary, every moment of waiting, every night in which you felt lonely, was woven into the greater plan that is now beginning to reveal itself to you. Remember something, the sacred connection is not a human invention, it is a divine design, a union of souls that transcends flesh, time, and distance. Many times we try to force paths, we insist on bonds that were not there, and then we get frustrated believing that God does not listen. But the truth is that He always listens, and even more, He always answers. What happens is that His answer comes at the exact moment, when you are ready to sustain what you asked for. And today you are here because God has determined that you are ready, that your heart has learned, that your spirit has matured. Restoration is not a distant dream, it is a reality that begins now. I want you to pay close attention to something. When a sacred connection is about to manifest, there are signs that begin to surround your life. It is possible that you have felt a sense of nostalgia for no apparent reason, a desire to look to the sky and wonder when it will arrive. You may have even dreamed about someone, or that names, songs, phrases repeatedly appear before you as if they were reminders from the universe. That is not a coincidence. It is God opening the channel. It is the Spirit moving to awaken in you the awareness of what is to come. And let me tell you, if you are here listening to these words, that sign is even clearer, because what is being revealed is not for everyone, but for those who have already been chosen. Perhaps you think that what you experienced before was unfair. Perhaps you gave all your love and it was not reciprocated. Perhaps you believed that the person who was in your life was the definitive one, but something happened and they broke. And today you wonder if a soulmate really exists. If there really is someone who can love you with the same intensity with which you love. The answer is yes. They do exist, and they are closer than you imagine. Because God does not play with your feelings. He does not awaken a longing in your heart and then leave it empty. What He awakens, He fulfills. And now what opens up before you is the restoration of that bond, the beginning of a time where what you were waiting for will finally materialize. I want you to take a moment and feel this inside you. It is not about searching desperately or trying to fit in places where you do not belong. It is about recognizing what is already coming to you. And here is the surprising thing. Many times when a soulmate approaches, the enemy will try to distract you, put doubts, even the wrong people in your path so that you lose focus. But if you keep your faith, if you hold on to your trust in what God is saying right now, nothing will be able to separate you from that union. Because it is written, because it is sealed in heaven, because it was decreed before you came into this world. And here I want to stop for a moment to ask you for something very special. If these words are igniting something inside you, if you feel that this message is for you, I want you to write this phrase in the comments. I trust in the divine plan. Write it as an act of faith, as a declaration that opens doors, because it is not about simple words, it is about aligning yourself with what the Creator is releasing into your life. Every time you declare it, you strengthen your spirit and connect with that promise. Now take a deep breath, because there is something I need to reveal to you. The soulmate does not always appear in the way we imagine. Sometimes it arrives disguised as a coincidence. Other times someone from your past reappears with a renewed heart. But there is always a common point. When that union is divine, everything flows with peace. There may be nerves, there may be excitement, but there will never be chaos or confusion. God is not a God of disorder, and the restoration of your connection will not come with storm, but with clarity. That is the key for you to know that what is coming into your life is not an illusion, but the fulfillment of an eternal promise. That is why I want you to stay very attentive, because in the next few moments we are going to delve into how to recognize these signs with certainty, how to know if the person who arrives is truly the one your spirit has been waiting for, and how to position yourself to receive this gift without fear, without anxiety, and with the absolute confidence that no one can take away what God gives. When the Creator decides to restore your sacred connection, He does not do so in a hidden or confusing way. He always sends clear signals, although sometimes we are so busy with routine or so burdened with doubts that we do not recognize them immediately. That is why I want to open your spiritual eyes and help you understand how this process manifests, so that you do not confuse it with fleeting illusions or emotions that are born of loneliness. The soulmate who approaches you is not just any person, and the difference is perceived in the depths of your heart. The first thing that begins to happen is an internal awakening. It is possible that lately you have felt that something inside you is preparing, as if a space within your soul were being cleared to receive something new. You may have even experienced the need to let go of people and situations, or habits that were once part of your life. And although at first that release hurt, now you understand that it was necessary. The Creator does not allow the sacred union to reach a terrain full of burdens and shadows. Before manifesting what was promised, He prepares your life so that the seed of true love can grow without obstacles. Another powerful sign is synchronicity. You begin to see repeated numbers, words that seem to speak to you directly, songs that appear just when you think of that connection. Suddenly, a name appears in different places, in conversations, in dreams, in unexpected messages. It is as if the entire universe is conspiring to remind you that something is coming. And although others may call it a coincidence, deep down you know that it is more than that. It is God confirming to you, you are not alone. What you asked for is on its way. The approach of the soulmate also awakens in you a feeling of early recognition. Even though you have not seen it yet, your spirit begins to feel it. It is as if you can perceive its energy, as if something inside you knows that it is already close. And this premonition does not come from anxiety, but of certainty. It is a peace that surpasses your understanding, a whisper from heaven telling you that your wait is coming to an end. But let me warn you of something important. Not everything that glitters comes from God. Many times, just before the true connection arrives, distractions appear, people who appear to be what you expect, but deep down are nothing more than mirages. And this is where you must be more alert than ever, because the enemy will try to steal the blessing from you, diverting your attention to relationships that do not lead to fulfillment, but to exhaustion. How do you recognize the difference? It is very simple. What comes from God always brings peace. What does not come from Him brings confusion. True sacred love does not make you doubt your worth. It does not make you feel that you have to beg for affection, nor does it keep you in emotional chains. Sacred love uplifts, strengthens, and confirms. I want you to ask yourself something right now. Are you ready to receive what you ask for? Because many times we say, I want my soulmate. But deep down we are still tied to past wounds, to resentments, to fears that prevent us from opening ourselves completely. And here is the secret. God is not only restoring your connection, He is also restoring you. He wants you to come to that union renewed, free, prepared to give and receive without fear. So do not be surprised if during this time you feel that your heart is going through a process of inner healing, because it is part of the plan. As this connection approaches, you will also notice that your spiritual sensitivity is intensified. Prayers that once seemed empty are now powerful. Words that once went unnoticed now move you. It is the Creator aligning your spirit with that of the person who is coming to you. Because soulmates do not only unite emotionally, but also spiritually. And when that happens, the bond transcends any human logic. Let me tell you something deeper. A soulmate is not someone perfect, because perfection does not exist in this world, but they are someone with whom you can connect. You share a divine purpose. That person doesn't come to you just to fill an emotional void, but to walk with you in fulfilling what God planned. Together you become a team, a union that inspires, that creates, that transforms. That's why when your sacred connection is restored, you not only receive love, you also receive direction, you receive strength, you receive purpose. And here I want you to stop your mind for a moment and reflect. How many times have you tried to fit into relationships where there was never peace? How many times have you accepted less than you deserved just for fear of being alone? Now you understand why nothing worked before. Because it wasn't God's plan. What wasn't meant for you was broken. Not because you are incapable of love, but because there was something greater in store. And that something greater is what is beginning to manifest now. Begin to look at the circumstances of your life with different eyes. If suddenly people from the past appear, don't take it lightly. Some may come back just as a test to confirm that you no longer need the same thing as before. But it's also possible that someone will return. Renewed, transformed, truly prepared to be who you were always meant to be. The important thing is that you listen to your spirit, because that is where the Creator will give you clarity. He will never leave you confused. He will always confirm what is yours with repeated signs and with deep peace. Do not ignore the transformation that you see in yourself either. If during this time you have felt that your faith is growing, that your hope is renewed, that even your way of loving is changing, that is a clear indication that the ground is ready. God does not send a promise on a hardened heart. He first softens, heals, and then delivers. And if right now you are feeling this message as a mirror of your life, then believe me, restoration is underway. Listen carefully. The love that comes to you is not fragile, it is not ephemeral, it is not a whim of the moment. It is a solid love with deep roots, prepared by the same God who knows every detail of your story. And when it manifests, you will understand why every tear, every wait, and every silence was worth it. Because nothing you have experienced was in vain. Everything, brought you to this point where the promise begins to be fulfilled. Hold on tight, because in the next moment we are going to go even deeper. I am going to show you how this divine plan unfolds in the invisible, how the Creator moves pieces that you cannot see, and how to recognize the exact moment in which that connection crosses your path so that you do not overlook the blessing that is already decreed for your life. When you understand that your sacred connection is already underway, something inside you changes forever. You no longer walk with the same anxiety. You no longer desperately look for signs on every corner, because you know that what is coming is assured. And that is the power of trusting in the divine plan. Certainty replaces doubt, peace replaces anguish, faith replaces fear. It is as if your spirit is finally at rest because it recognizes that God has already made the decision that you were waiting for. But here is the most extraordinary thing. What happens in the invisible is often more real than what you see with your own eyes. Right now, as you hear these words, the Creator is moving pieces that you cannot even imagine. People are being led, paths are being made, are being aligned, hearts are being transformed. And although it may seem to you that nothing is happening on the outside, in the spiritual world the work is advancing rapidly. That is why you must not give up just now. You must not let go of your faith just when the miracle is already taking place. Let me take you to an even deeper point. The union with your soulmate is not only a gift of love, it is also a weapon of light against darkness. Because when two souls who recognize each other in the divine meet, the strength that they radiate together is capable of breaking chains, healing wounds, and opening paths not only for you, but also for those around you. That is why many times the process was so hard, because the enemy knew the power that this union would have and tried to stop it again and again, but what God protects, no one can destroy. And if you are here listening to this, it is because that union has already been defended, it has already been protected, and now it is ready to be revealed. I want you to observe your recent life. Have you noticed that your thoughts about the future have changed? Before, perhaps you looked at what was coming with fear, with the feeling that you were going to repeat old stories. Now, even though you still don't see everything clearly, something inside you gives you hope. That spark doesn't come from nowhere. It's the voice of God inside you, preparing your heart to receive what He promised. He never awakens illusion, He awakens destiny. And that destiny is the restoration that begins to manifest on your path today. In the coming days, weeks, or months, you will notice how unexpected opportunities open up. Perhaps a chance encounter, a simple conversation that changes everything, a glance that ignites in you the certainty that it has finally arrived. And when it happens, you will know that it is no coincidence, because you will remember these words: sacred love is always recognized by the peace it brings, not by the confusion it causes. You will be able to look at that person and feel that you somehow already know them, even though it is the first time you have spoken. That is what true soul recognition means. And if for a moment doubt comes to you, if your mind tries to sabotage what your spirit already knows, remember this again. God makes no mistakes. If He determined that your connection would be restored, so it will be. Neither distance, nor time, nor wounds, nor circumstances have the power to prevent what has already been decreed on high. That union is protected, it is covered, it is sealed. All you have to do is remain open with a willing heart and with a burning faith. Now listen carefully. The love that comes to you is not fragile. It is not a bond that will be broken by the first storm. It is a tested love, forged in the fire of waiting, purified in patience, strengthened in prayer. That is why it will be stable, deep, lasting. And you will recognize it because you will finally feel that everything fits together, that you do not need to try to be someone you are not, that you can show your true self. Essence without fear. That is the greatest proof that you are in front of your soulmate. With that person you can be yourself and still feel loved. And I want you to engrave this in your heart. The soulmate does not come to complete what you lack, because you are already complete in God. They come to complement, to walk with you, to expand what you already are. Do not think that without them you are nothing. Think that with them you multiply what you already have. That is true restoration, not a better half, but two whole souls that come together to create something even greater together. So do not be afraid to open yourself up, do not be afraid to receive, do not allow past wounds to close the doors to the future. Each failure, each disappointment, was only training for this moment. It was the process that prepared you to sustain the love that now comes into your life. And although at times you may have felt that you were alone, in reality you never were. God was with you every step of the way, guiding you towards this encounter. Now I want to invite you to do something final, something that will seal this word in your life. I want you to declare with your lips and write in the comments this phrase: I am ready to receive my sacred union. Write it like a key that opens the door, like an act of faith that connects you even more with what is already written for you. Don't write it just to write it. Do it feeling every word, believing that you are truly ready. Because when you declare it, your spirit aligns and the entire universe responds. And as you do, keep this in your heart. The waiting time is over. Restoration is on the way and your soulmate is already approaching. Walk with confidence, with renewed hope, with your eyes open to the signs, because what is coming to you is greater than you asked for, greater than you imagined, and more beautiful than you ever dreamed. God has already decided. Your sacred connection will be restored and no one will be able to stop the love that is destined for you. Life sometimes surprises us with signs that seem small, but are actually confirmations of something much bigger. And if you are here today listening to these words, it is not a coincidence. There is something in your heart that already feels it. An inner voice that whispers to you that the most important encounter of your life has already been decided. You did not seek it out by chance. You did not come across this video by mistake. What is about to be revealed is the confirmation that your soulmate has already been prepared for you, that the moment when your paths cross is not a matter of chance, but of divine destiny. And I want you to stay with me because in the next few minutes you will understand why none of what you have experienced so far was in vain and how every step you took was leading you to that person who was chosen for you before you even knew it. When we talk about soulmates, we are not talking about a simple romance or a fleeting relationship. We are talking about that encounter that transforms you, that makes you remember who you are deep down, that restores your faith that true love exists. And more than that, we are talking about a decision that has already been made on high. God has already determined that this encounter will be part of your story. It is not a question of whether it will happen or not. The real question is, are you ready to recognize it when it does? Because the signs are already manifesting, although many times we do not see them clearly. Perhaps at this moment you are wondering, how can I know if there is truly someone destined for me? How can I distinguish between a simple desire to love and the certainty that there is a perfect plan waiting to be fulfilled? The answer lies within you, in the way your soul vibrates when you hear these words. In that feeling that what I am telling you is not new, but a memory that is awakening, because deep down you already knew it, you already felt it, and all you needed was confirmation. Imagine for a moment that all the pain you have experienced, all those relationships that did not work out, the disappointments, the times you felt alone, were not mistakes or punishments, but preparation. Each tear was a teaching. Each goodbye made you stronger. Each emptiness opened space in you for something greater. Can you see it? What seemed like an ending was actually a beginning in disguise. All of that was necessary so that today you could receive this message and understand that you didn't waste your time, but that you were molded for something that transcends. The most impressive thing about all of this is that God doesn't improvise. He doesn't play with your emotions or leave you adrift. Long before you imagined what true love means, it was already written that your soulmate would walk towards you at just the right time. And although sometimes you may think it's taking too long, the truth is that God's timing is perfect, and what now seems like a delay is actually synchronicity. It's like a work of art that needs each brush stroke in its place so that in the end the complete image makes sense. There's something I want you to understand right now. You don't need to go out in desperation to search. You don't need to force encounters, because what is yours by destiny will come. Not because you're sitting back, but because when you're aligned with what God has for you, life itself takes care of placing that person in your path. Sometimes in unexpected places, sometimes in circumstances that seem improbable, but always with such clear force that you won't be able to deny that it is He who organized it all. I want to invite you to think for a moment about the times when something inside you told you that you were being guided. That feeling that a door closed just in time, that someone walked away without you understanding why, but later you discovered that it was the best thing that could have happened to you. That was no coincidence, it was protection. And that same hand that protected you in the past is the one that now sets the stage for your most important encounter. And here I want to ask you a question, and I would like you to answer it in the comments, because your words have power. Do you feel in your heart that you are ready to recognize your soulmate when they appear? Write it with conviction. Write, I am ready to recognize my soulmate. It is not a simple comment, it is a statement that activates your faith, that opens a space in you so that what has already been decided can manifest. Now I want you to realize something very profound. Your soulmate is not only being prepared for you, but you are also being prepared for them. It's like a journey of two rivers that start in different places but inevitably meet at some point. Every experience you have, every lesson you learn, every step you take, not only transforms you, it is also preparing for the moment when you both look into each other's eyes and recognize that you were always looking for each other. When that day comes, there will be no doubt. It won't be like those relationships where you feel like you have to convince the other or convince yourself. It will be a quiet certainty, a peace that surpasses all understanding, an energy that tells you, yes, this is it. And that is what separates an ordinary encounter from a destined encounter: clarity. Because true love doesn't create anxiety, it doesn't make you feel like you have to compete for attention or beg. True love, the kind that God has already written for you, just flows. You may wonder, why is it taking so long? Why haven't I experienced it yet when I want it with all my being? And the answer is simple, yet profound, because there are still pieces that are falling into place, not only in your life, but also in the life of the person who will be your complement. It is as if heaven were silently weaving a plan, taking care of every detail so that when you meet, everything fits together perfectly. That is why what you are experiencing now, even if you do not understand it, is part of the process. The loneliness you feel is not emptiness, space that is being created so that the new can enter. The trials you face are not punishments, they are training that strengthens your heart. And although your mind sometimes doubts, your soul already knows that everything has a purpose, that nothing is wasted in God's plan. When you understand that none of what you have experienced was a coincidence, you begin to look at your life with different eyes. The pieces that previously seemed disconnected begin to fit together like a puzzle that gradually reveals its final image. And that image has a very clear center, the encounter with your soulmate. It is not just another wish, it is a promise fulfilled. And as I speak, I want you to allow your heart to open to this certainty. What is written for you cannot be stolen, it cannot be canceled because it has already been decided in heaven. There is something very powerful in recognizing that true love does not depend on our strength or our haste. When we try to control every detail, we end up exhausted, frustrated, confused. But when we learn to trust that God is the one who arranges the encounters, we free ourselves from that burden and begin to flow. And in that flow, the signs become visible. Have you felt lately that life speaks to you in details? Perhaps in a dream that repeats itself, in a song that arrives just at the moment when you need it most, in a word that someone says to you without knowing how much it meant to you. All of these are winks from destiny, subtle ways of reminding you that you are on the right path. Many times we think that finding our soulmate will be an explosive event, something out of the ordinary. But the truth is that most of the time it happens in simplicity. You don't need flashy lights, you don't need drama. The greatness of destiny lies in its naturalness. That person will appear and it will be as if they had always been there, even though your paths have only just crossed. It will be as if time stopped to remind you that there was a before and after that moment. Let me tell you something. Destined love does not compete with what has already happened in your life. It does not come to replace or erase it. It comes to give it meaning. Everything you experienced before, even what hurt, will be part of the story you will share with that person. And when you talk about your past, you will discover that you were both guided by different paths that had the same ending. And there you will understand that the wait was worth it, that nothing was lost, that everything had a purpose. But there is an important detail that I want you to listen to carefully. Sometimes our soulmate does not arrive disguised as perfection. Maybe it does not meet all those ideas that your mind built of what love should be. Maybe it does not look like you dreamed of or does not fit the molds that society imposes. But what sets her apart from anyone else is that her presence will make you feel at home. You will see yourself reflected in her gaze. You will feel that you can be yourself without masks, and that feeling of freedom and peace will be the true sign. That is where many fail. They let themselves be guided by the superficial, by what looks good to others, and they let what really matters pass them by. And I want to tell you something very clearly, your soulmate is not a prize that you must conquer with desperate effort. It is a gift that you will recognize in its authenticity. When it arrives, you will not have to compete, you will not have to beg. True love does not put chains, it opens its wings. And perhaps at this point you are wondering, what do I do in the meantime? How do I prepare for that meeting? Because waiting can be difficult, I know. The mind sometimes despairs. It wonders if any of this is true. And that is where the power of preparation comes in. It is not about waiting with arms crossed, it is about growing. Your soulmate does not need to meet a broken version of you, but someone who, even though they have scars, has turned them into strength. And that is what you are doing right now, transforming your wounds into wisdom, your loneliness into self-knowledge, your silence into depth. God is not delaying you, He is strengthening you, because when that person arrives, you will need to have the ability to love with maturity, to build with patience, to sustain what heaven has already determined. Destined love is not just about receiving, it is about giving. And only those who have already learned to fill their own hearts with faith and trust can give. Think about this. If you were in front of your soulmate today, would you be ready to love without fear, without carrying the shadows of the past, without doubts that sabotage the new? That is true preparation, and the more you work on yourself, the faster the time for that encounter will align. Because God sees your willingness, sees your surrender, and responds with opportunities. And remember, you are not alone in this process. Even though it may seem like you are walking in silence, there are millions of people who at this very moment are also waiting for that encounter. Each story is different, but the promise is the same. No one who trusts goes unanswered. What was planted in your heart as a deep desire was not placed there by chance. It was planted by the same one who already knows the end of your story. Do you know what excites me the most about all this? That when the time comes you will look back and say, "Now I understand why everything was the way it was." The pieces will fit together so perfectly that even the tears will make sense. What today seems like a delay, tomorrow will be revealed as exactness. And in that instant you will understand that God is never late, He always arrives on time. And the day will come, the precise moment in which everything you have heard here will become reality in your life. It will be a moment that you will not be able to mistake because your soul will recognize it immediately. It will not be a fire that quickly burns out and goes out. It will be a constant, steady flame that illuminates without destroying. And when you look at that person, you will feel something that cannot be explained with words, but that your heart will translate as certainty. It is important for you to know that this encounter is not the end of the road, it is the beginning of a new stage. Sometimes we think that finding our soulmate is the final destination, but in reality it is the starting point of a greater mission. Because two souls that recognize and unite do not only do so to enjoy each other, they do so to spread love, to build something together that transcends, to be a living testimony that true love exists and that God keeps His promises. And that is what will make your relationship with your soulmate different from any other. It will not be a bond that only looks inward, it will be a bond that also looks outward. You will be a reflection of what divine union means. You will be an inspiration to others. You will be strength in difficult times. You will be companionship on gray days and celebration on days of joy. Because when love is decided in heaven, nothing on earth can break it. I want you to engrave this in your heart. Your soulmate will not be perfect, and neither are you. It is not about perfection, it is about purpose. The purpose of complementing each other, of supporting each other, of growing together. There will be challenges, yes, but each one of them will be an opportunity to strengthen the bond that unites you. And on the days when life gets complicated, you will remember that you are not together by chance, but because it was written that way from the beginning. Maybe right now you do not see it clearly. Maybe you feel that there is still distance between your reality and this one. Promise. But each day that passes, each step you take, brings you closer to that moment. And even if you don't have the date marked on your calendar, God has already reserved that meeting. Your task is not to obsess over when, but to keep your heart prepared, attentive, trusting, because at the least expected moment you will see it happen. Imagine for a moment what that day will be like. Maybe it will be in a common place, in a situation that seemed routine, but something inside you will recognize it. And when that happens, you will remember these words and you will know that you were always being prepared for that moment. And then you will feel gratitude. Gratitude for the waiting, for the tears, for the silences, because everything made sense in a single moment of truth. Don't forget that destined love does not compete, does not confuse. Destined love clarifies, edifies, heals, and if something in your life does not reflect that peace, then it is not what comes from God. Your soulmate will not come to add weight, they will come to provide an answer. And that answer will be so clear that you will not have to ask for signs, because the greatest sign will be the peace that sits next to him. If you were hesitant until today, I want you to leave today with certainty. You don't need to force anything. You don't need to run after anyone. All you need to do is trust that what is written for you will arrive at the perfect time, and when it does, you will understand that there was no need to rush because everything was under control. I want to close this message by reminding you of something very important. God has already decided your meeting, and what He decides, no one can stop. No matter how many obstacles appear, no matter how many times you have thought you were far away, what is determined for you will be fulfilled. And in the meantime, keep growing, keep believing, keep preparing your heart, because waiting is not loss, it is construction. So stay alert, because the love of your life is not in the distant future, it is in God's plan. And that plan is already in motion. Soon you will look back and realize that this message was not a coincidence, it was confirmation. The confirmation that your soulmate is already on the way and that your destiny is about to be fulfilled. And if this message resonated with you, if in your heart you feel that it's true, I want you to declare it in the comments once again with faith. I trust in God's plan for my soulmate. Because every word you utter with conviction paves the way for what is already written. Never forget. True love is not desperately sought, it is recognized when it arrives, and yours is already decided. No. Did you know that when God has something prepared for you, nothing and no one can stop it? Today I want you to open your heart wide, because what you are about to hear is no coincidence. If this message has reached you, it is because the Lord wants to remind you of a very clear promise. That person you have been waiting for, that connection that seemed impossible, is about to come into your life very soon. It is not an empty dream, it is not a simple desire, it is part of the divine plan that is already in motion. Get ready, because when God says it is time, doors open and history changes. I want you to understand something from the beginning. What you are going to hear today is not for everyone. It is for you who have been waiting, praying, silently asking when that answer would come. And although sometimes it may seem that God is silent, the truth is that He has been working in secret, preparing that encounter, molding hearts and circumstances so that everything happens at the perfect time. Have no doubt, because when God speaks, His word is fulfilled. Now, perhaps at this moment in your life you have felt tired of waiting. Have you felt that the days go by and nothing changes, that your prayers seem to have no echo? But I want you to remember that in the Bible, every time someone received a promise, there was also a time of waiting, a time when it seemed like nothing was happening. However, in that apparent silence, God was working. And today that waiting reaches a turning point. Someone very important is about to approach you, and with that person also comes a profound change. Think of Abraham waiting for the promise of a son. Think of Joseph in the middle of prison without imagining that he would soon be raised up as governor of Egypt. Think of David, who spent years taking care of sheep before becoming king. All of them had moments in which they seemed forgotten. But in reality they were being prepared. The same is happening with you. This time has not been wasted. It has been necessary for you to now receive what is coming. And this is where I want to stop with you. Because you may be wondering, how will I know that this person is approaching? How will I identify that it is not an illusion or a deception? The answer is clear. When God is the one uniting, there is peace, not confusion, not anxiety, but a deep peace that confirms in your spirit that this comes from Him. God never brings chaos, never pushes you to despair. He always arrives with order, with purpose, with clear signs that this person is part of His plan. I repeat, this person will come very soon. And I'm not just talking about a romantic relationship, although it may be in your case. I'm talking about someone key, someone who will be part of your process, someone who will be an instrument of blessing, someone that God Himself chose to walk with you in a new stage. It could be a life partner, a true friend, a business partner, someone who will open a door that seemed closed forever. I know that as you listen to this, your mind begins to bring up faces, memories, questions, but I want you to resist the temptation to want to control the details. God is not asking you to discover how it will be or exactly when. All He asks of you is to trust, and in that trust prepare your heart, because what is coming requires you to be ready. If God opens a door and you are not prepared to walk through it, you could miss the opportunity. That is why this message is not just an announcement, it is also preparation. Before continuing, I want to make you an invitation. Write the phrase, "I trust in God's timing," in the comments. Do it as an act of faith, as a public declaration that you are ready to receive what He is already aligning in your life. Because every word you speak with your mouth has power, and today your words can be the key that opens the next season. Now think about something. How many times have you felt that you were ready, but in reality you were not yet? Maybe you asked for company, but there were still wounds in your heart that needed healing. Maybe you asked for support, but you still had trouble trusting others. God does not give something so great into hands that are not prepared. That is why the wait has been so long, because the gift is valuable. And when something is valuable, God makes sure that you do not lose it or destroy it due to a lack of maturity. This approach that is about to happen will mark a change, and that change will be evident. You will stop feeling like you are walking alone. You will stop feeling like everything depends solely on your strength. God will show you that, even though it may seem incredible, He always knew who to send your way and when to do it. It is no coincidence that this message comes right now when you needed it most, when you were about to give up. The Lord is telling you today, do not give up, because what you are waiting for is closer than you can imagine. I want you to take a deep breath and receive these words inside you. Don't just listen to them with your ears, listen to them with your spirit, because if you let them in, something will start to change right now. God is already moving pieces, He is already aligning steps, He is already touching hearts. That person will not come by chance. They will come sent, guided, placed in your path with divine precision. And when they arrive, you will know it. You will not have to force it, you will not have to chase it, it will simply happen. Remember, it is not magic, It is not coincidence, it is God's perfect plan being fulfilled at the exact moment. That person is approaching, and with them a new stage that will transform your story forever. Let me take you a little deeper into this, because what God is about to do in your life is not something small. It is not a simple change of environment or a temporary relief, it is a transformation that will mark your story. And I want you to clearly understand how the Lord acts. When He decides to bring someone close to you, He doesn't do it to superficially fill a void, but to fulfill an eternal purpose. Sometimes we think that the people who come into our lives do so because it was their turn, as if it were coincidence. But when God intervenes, nothing is coincidence. Each person He sends is part of a plan, a piece in the puzzle. Some come to teach you lessons, others to support you at key moments, and others, as in this case, to walk with you in a new season of growth and victory. Don't ignore the signs. God is already beginning to prepare you, and perhaps you haven't even noticed. Have you noticed how lately you've felt the need to close cycles, to forgive, to let go of burdens? That's no coincidence. God is cleansing you from the inside so that you'll be ready when that person arrives. Because if you carry resentment, doubts, fear, or chains from the past, you won't be able to enjoy the gift that's coming. Perhaps at this moment you're remembering wounds from previous relationships, friendships that betrayed you, people who promised to be there and in the end walked away. And that may make you feel distrustful. But listen carefully, this time it will not be the same. This time it will not depend on human will, but on God's faithfulness. What He joins together, no one can separate. What He blesses stands firm, even when the world shakes. Let me remind you of something important. The enemy will always try to sow doubt just before your blessing arrives. It's like a strategy to make you lose hope at the last minute. Perhaps in recent days you have felt bouts of discouragement, thoughts of loneliness, the feeling that nothing will change. But that is one more sign that you are on the verge of something new. The enemy does not fight for what has no value. If he has been attacking your mind, it is because he knows that you are about to enter a stage of fulfillment. And do you know what the most beautiful thing is? You will not have to force anything. You will not have to chase or manipulate or wear yourself out. When that person arrives, you will know it, because everything will flow naturally. And I do not mean that there will be no challenges, because every relationship or alliance has challenges, but there will be an inner certainty, a peace that cannot be explained with words. That peace will be your sign that God is behind it all. I want you to begin to visualize what that change will be like in your life, not with anxiety, but with faith. Imagine what it will feel like to not walk alone, what it will be like to share burdens, what it will be like to receive support in difficult times, what it will be like to hear words that confirm what God has already told you in the intimacy of prayer. That person will come as an answer, as an echo of what your spirit already knew. And when it happens, you will not be able to deny that it was the hand of God. Maybe right now you are thinking, what if I am wrong? What if I mix up the signs? Let me give you clarity. When something comes from God, there is no need to rush. The right person does not pressure you, does not make you feel afraid, does not play with your peace. Quite the opposite, their presence in your life will bring order, direction, and motivation to grow. That is the difference between what God sends and what the world offers. In the Bible we find a powerful example in Ruth. She had lost everything. She was in a foreign land, without hope, but God had prepared you, a man of integrity, who not only redeemed her, but also raised her up in honor and purpose. Do you think it was a coincidence? It was not. It was a divine encounter, a crossroads designed by God from the beginning. And the same can happen to you when it seems like there is no way out. The Lord pulls invisible strings and places in your path the exact person who will open a new stage. So do not worry about whether that person will appear tomorrow, next week, or in a month. God's promise does not depend on the human calendar. He knows the precise moment and when everything will arrive. Seem confusing will make sense. The important thing now is that you prepare your heart, that you remain firm in faith, that you declare every day that you trust in His timing. In fact, I want you to say it with me out loud, right where you are. Lord, I trust in your timing and your plans. I am ready to receive what you have prepared for me. That declaration is not an empty phrase, it is an act of spiritual alignment. Every time you say it, your faith is strengthened and your spirit opens to receive what is coming. And don't forget something else. God will never bring someone into your life who will distance you from Him. That is another clear sign. The person who is approaching you soon will be someone who will bring you closer to the presence of God, who will inspire you to pray, who will motivate you to grow spiritually, who will not turn you away from your purpose, but will help you walk more firmly in it. You may be thinking right now, what if I know that person and I just didn't realize it? It is very possible. Sometimes God has already placed them close by, but our eyes have not yet been opened. That's why it's important to ask the Holy Spirit for discernment so that you can see clearly. When God opens your spiritual eyes, you begin to notice things that previously went unnoticed. That seemingly simple conversation becomes confirmation. That unexpected gesture becomes a sign. So open your heart, listen attentively, and keep your eyes on God, because very soon, sooner than you can imagine, that person will approach you, and when they do, you'll know that the wait was worth it. I want you to think about something very important right now. God is not only bringing that person into your life, He's also bringing you to a new level of understanding. Many times we expect everything to change from the outside in, but true change begins within you. When your heart aligns with God's plan, your surroundings begin to transform. And that's precisely what's happening now. The fact that you're listening to this message is a sign that your spirit is being prepared. God is awakening in you the sensitivity to recognize what's coming. You're no longer the same person you were a few months ago. You no longer think the same. You no longer pray the same. And that inner transformation is the prelude to the encounter that will change your story. Let me give you an image. It's like when a farmer works the land before sowing the seed. He cleans it, softens it, and prepares it. Because if the land is not ready, the seed cannot bear fruit. You are that land, and God has been working in you, removing stones from the past, smoothing out hardness, and removing roots that were preventing you from moving forward. Why? Because the seed is about to be planted. That person is part of that seed, part of that promise that will bear fruit at the right time. Now, I don't want you to confuse preparation with perfection. God does not ask you to be perfect before receiving what is coming. He only asks for willingness. What is coming will not be a fairy tale without struggles. It will be a real relationship, with purpose, with challenges, but also with victory. And the most beautiful thing is that you will not walk alone in this process. God Himself will be the center that keeps everything firm. Remember something powerful. When God blesses a union, whether it be a friendship, a companionship, or a couple, that union impacts not only those involved, but also everyone around them. It's like a light that begins to shine and touch others. What is about to happen in your life will not only be an answer for you, it will also be a testimony to many. Others will see how God fulfilled His word and will find hope through your story. Think of Mary and Elizabeth in the Bible. Both were experiencing impossible miracles. One was waiting for John the Baptist, the other for Jesus. And God allowed them to meet at just the right time, because they needed confirmation from each other. When they met, their bellies trembled. The Holy Spirit manifested. That's what happens when two people appointed by God cross paths. There is confirmation, there is joy, there is a spiritual movement that cannot be denied. That person who comes into your life is not coming to fill an empty space. They come as confirmation that God has heard your prayers, and when you have them near you will know that it was not an accident, you will know that they were part of a greater plan. Now I want you to reflect on this. Are you ready to receive? Because many times we ask for blessings, but when they come we do not know how to handle them. We ask for company, but we remain locked up in fear. We ask for support, but we continue to cling to pride. That is why God is speaking to you today. Open your heart, let go of the past, forgive what you need to forgive, and trust that the new will be better than what is behind. Do not be afraid to lose what was not for you. Do not be afraid to let go of what has already fulfilled its purpose, because what God brings is always greater. He does not take away without having prepared something greater. That person who comes will not be a copy of the old, they will be completely different. They will be someone aligned with heaven, someone who will help you move forward and not backward. Perhaps right now you feel a certain disbelief. You may think, this sounds too good to be true, but remember that with God, nothing is impossible. If He could part the sea so that the people of Israel could cross over on dry ground, if He could resurrect Lazarus after 4 days, if He could give Sarah a son in her old age, do you think He can't bring the right person into your life at the right time? What seems difficult to you is easy for Him. And here I want to speak to you directly. Don't compare yourself to others. Don't think that because others have already received it, you have fallen behind. Every process is different. Every story has its own time. God's clock is neither slow nor fast. And if it hasn't happened yet, it's because it wasn't the right time. But it's coming. What you were waiting for is on its way. Listen carefully. When that person shows up, everything will make sense. You'll understand why things didn't work out with those who came before. You'll understand why you had to wait, why God protected you from certain paths. You will realize that what seemed like loss was actually protection and what seemed like delay was actually preparation. The Lord is saying to you today, I am with you every step of the way. I prepare your relationships. I align your connections. I bring into your life the person who will open the door to a new season. Do not hesitate any longer, because the plan is already in motion and I want you to declare it with me now. I am ready for the change that God is bringing into my life. Speak it with faith, speak it with conviction, because your words create atmosphere, your words open the way. Very soon you will look back and say, now I understand. Now I see the faithfulness of God. And when that person stands before you, you won't have to ask anyone if they are the right one. Your spirit will know, your heart will confirm it, and your peace will support it. So lift up your head, wait with hope, and rejoice, because what God promised is about to be fulfilled. The waiting was not in vain. The tears were not in vain. The prayers were not in vain. That person is already approaching, and with them comes the change that will transform your life forever. This is the time to believe, to trust, and to prepare yourself. Because the fulfillment is already on its way.